Good evening. Welcome to our meeting. It's actually probably our last Friday night meeting of the season. So I'm glad everybody's here and everybody's here on Zoom. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Do I need a second? Second. All those in favor? Yeah. Will we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So, basically, we got the most recent plover report, and we have so far 28 fledged chicks. So. 28 fledged chicks. Last Saturday night, we had our movie night. It was a huge success. We brought the leftover candy, so anybody who's here would be more than happy to enjoy some of the leftover candy. If anybody has children, grandchildren, please let us know if you'd like to come trick or treat here or at the new village office. We're actually in the BVPA space, and we basically worked out a deal with the BVPA to move the village offices back to 914 Dune Road. The BVPA has signed the lease. We're approving the lease tonight, and we're very excited that the village office is now in the village. As one of the things that we promised was to bring the village office back to the village, and it's been done in less than 45 days. It took a lot of work. Everybody worked hard to help us, but we're here and we're back in the village. So please don't go to 4 Arthur Street unless you want to visit somebody else. One of the things that I recently discovered is that our constabulary building, 656A Dune Road, did not have flood insurance. It was a brand new building. They never put flood insurance on it. We had flood insurance on 914 Dune Road, which is the old constabulary, which was vacant, but there was no flood insurance on 656A. So I was able to get a policy put in place that I gave the board a heads up. We're going to be ratifying it tonight. There's a 30-day waiting period. So by trying to get this done in advance, our policy will kick in August 24th. Which will be before hurricane season, but hopefully it's one of those policies that the village or any of the residents will never want to have to use or exercise. But we have it in place just to protect our asset there. Another thing we're going to discuss tonight is we wanted to have some what's called on-call contracts for engineers and architectural type firms. As a former member of the ZBA, one of the things we needed was to have somebody help us kind of review plans and let us know what was going on and let us know the information we were getting from the attorneys that were providing information was accurate. We had a lot of situations where stuff was not 100%. We had to go over it multiple times. So in order to prevent that from happening in the past, we're going to engage an architect and possibly an engineer in the future that'll be on contract for the village. So when something comes in that we need their resources, they'll be readily available. When it comes to the zoning board, the architectural fees, the attorney's fees, and any of the fees associated with the zoning meeting are actually passed on to the applicant, and it is not a cost that is borne by the village. So this will not cost the village any money if it's being used for the zoning board. So there's a copy of it that I passed out to the board. It's pretty simple, and just basically paying somebody out, a licensed architect, an hourly rate to help reduce that. I've had a lot of meetings in the last week with pretty much all the political players that are involved in the village of West Hampton Dunes. Last Friday, I had 2 meetings with Governor Hochul, one with the mayors of the East End. The second one was at a reception. I spoke to her and I spoke to our aides, and I told her that the village was moving into the village for the first time in 30 years, and we could use some help, possibly some money or some grants to basically relocate Village Hall, basically renovate Village Hall. So I spoke to Governor Hochul about that. I also met with and the course of Wednesday, I met with Congressman Lalota, and we spoke about the beach replenishment and also some possible grants that he could provide to the village to Village Hall to move. I met with Senator Anthony Palumbo. I also met with Fred Thiel. Fred's the environmental Democrat on the East End. He is retiring, but we're hoping that maybe as one of the last things he does, he can find some. He was actually the supervisor of Southampton at the time his village was formed. And so he kind of knows our village intimately. It was a kind of an unprecedented event that happened during his watch to form a village. And I met with him in his office on Wednesday, and we discussed trying to see if he can find some money from Albany to help us again with our move or anything else that we possibly could use in the village. I think 2 weeks ago, Deputy Mayor Tremarky and I and our attorneys had a meeting with the Department of State. There's some ongoing issues that have been going on with them. They reached out to me my first day in office and said, hey, I want to introduce myself to you, and we need to move these things forward. So there's basically 4 issues that are going on with the Department of State. One is in the closet, the other part. One is the propane tanks, of which some people have buried propane tanks. Other people have propane tanks by their house that are not properly secured, or they're possibly in the wrong location. Our building inspector and the former trustee Harvey Gesson did a task of analyzing every home in the village and coming up with a list of the houses that have possible issues that was put together in November. Unfortunately, sometime between November and today, nothing was pushed forward in terms of letting all the homeowners know who has a problem and who needs to resolve it. So the building inspector is working with us now to get letters out to the homeowners and possibly the propane companies and let them know who needs to basically secure, anchor their propane tanks, who possibly might need to move their propane tank or possibly get a variance, etc. So hopefully those letters will be going out shortly. We'll be sharing that with the Department of State. The other issue they had was the 3- and 4-story issue, which is kind of something that's been ongoing with the village, and we will be working with them to resolve that. The third issue was basically the Department of State is now asking basically all municipalities to kind of adopt a uniform building code that's in the Department of State. There were things in the building code that really don't pertain to our village. Like one of the examples that was given at a previous meeting is a parking garage and stuff like that. But we don't have to allow them to be there, but evidently they want the code the same for everybody. So we're gonna have to look at what they're asking us to do and probably have to adopt it. And the last issue they had is they said that we were not necessarily reporting properly, timely, and annually on all the building construction that went on in the village, and we were not providing those documentation to the state. So we want to make sure that we do that going forward. And they seem to be, they want to keep us on a very tight leash, and they want to have bi-weekly meetings with us, but they're not looking to do anything radical and step in and try to take anything over because they know we're willing to comply with them. The next thing is the NICOM conference is coming up which is the New York State Conference of Mayors. So I will be attending in September, and I'm just asking, as always was done previously by the previous administrations, for the board to approve myself attending the conference. Another thing that I instituted initially was cleaning up of the construction sites. I noticed that a lot of construction sites, the sand was getting in the street. Also, somebody complained that people were getting flat tires. So basically all the construction sites know that they should be blowing the sand back into the site and taking those magnetic wands and making sure they pick up all the nuts, bolts, and screws so they don't get in the street and people don't get flats. And I know the first time we implemented this, and I see Chad sitting back there, Chad was out with the blower and cleaning up the property and construction sites from day one. So I appreciate the cooperation that you and everybody else has provided us to do that. Another thing that I've asked to have done is, I call it the contractor sign removals. There's been some contractor signs up in the village. There's one that I think has been up for a couple of years on Cove Lane. And the house is not still under construction. And I think, not that the rule is clear, but I think the principle here was, we won't tell you can't have a sign when you're doing a house because we want to have the permit. But once the house is done to the CO, we'd like the signs removed within a few weeks. And so people have been cooperative, and if you've noticed, some of the signs were already taken down, and another one will be taken down on Monday, I was told, but we're trying to, get that done as far as that goes. Another thing, I happen to walk pretty much the village every day, weather permitting and schedule permitting. And in the shoulder area of the village, a lot of people's properties had overgrowth, and they were kind of growing into the shoulders, and people might get whacked in the head when they were walking or riding a bicycle. So the building inspector went out and he spoke to all the neighbors, and basically pretty much everybody's been cooperative, and they've trimmed it all back. There was also an issue on Vision Lane where it was impeding people's view when they wanted to turn. So the neighbor on that corner also trimmed it. Stephen Colucci trimmed the corner of Cove and in Dune Road. He even put some mulch out, so to make it even nicer. So everybody seems to be doing that, and I want to make sure people keep doing that. Another issue we've been having is garbage pails. The code says you can't put your garbage pails out. The code says the garbage pails have to be hidden and secured, and some people are still not following the code. So Brian has been talking to everybody and trying to ask them to be cooperative, make sure they have a place to have it, and not leave the garbage pails out, because it's not fair for the people that do it, nor should garbage be put out, especially food garbage that's not in a pail and secure, because the animals and the birds are going to get to it, and then it's going to be on all your neighbors' property as the wind blows, and it won't be your problem, but all your neighbors will be kind of upset. So again, please take care of this. We haven't fined anybody for it, and we've asked everybody to cooperate, but if you don't cooperate, it's, the police might take a further action. Another thing that's been pending in the village for a while, and with the previous administration, was the Optimum franchise agreement. Optimum reached out to me already about getting this agreement signed, which is past due. I know it's been discussed. I know they're going to give us some amount of money. I don't know if they're going to be giving us any faster or better service. There's no other game in town unless you're going to go to like DirecTV or something else in terms of getting any kind of internet. The good news is that one of our attorneys, Brian Stoller, who's not here tonight, has negotiated plenty of agreements with Optimum. They actually know him, so he's going to get this thing expedited for us so we can move forward. For the most part, it's going to be boilerplate. I don't think there's a lot we can negotiate on it, but since Brian's done it before, he'll try to get us whatever we can get to move that forward. Since we did move our offices next door to 914 Dune Road, if anybody's got any outdoor furniture, chairs, couches, table, umbrella, we would love to have some furniture donated so we can, if you're buying new furniture, changing it so we can have some furniture and we can have some outdoor space there so we can meet with people. And just, we've got these most amazing views there. So if anybody's got that, I'd like to have something donated so the village doesn't have to buy anything. Another update at the previous meeting, the village gave us permission to dispose of 2 of the vehicles. One was a Jeep from 2007, and the other one was Gary's, the former mayor's Jeep from 2023. I didn't see the purpose of having the village pay for a vehicle for me, and I basically, one of the things I committed to was to get rid of the vehicle and put the money back in the village coffers and save the village the insurance and the gas and everything else. Gary Tremarky and I have been working together on that, probably more Gary. And we were able to successfully sell the 2007 Jeep. And we have an offer right now pending on the 2023 Jeep that was trying to get them up a little bit more money, but it's probably, if you want to, yeah. So that's where that stands. So I expect that to be, I basically said, let's kind of run it through the weekend and see after this weekend where we stand with that, and then make a decision to basically take that vehicle out of service and put the money back into the village coffers. The next thing is we have FIMP and FIMP is the Fire Island to Montauk Point. And that's the contract that's going to be replenishing the sand for us. And Regina has been talking to a bunch of people, and I think she has some information she'd like to share on FIMP now.
Okay, thank you. So this information is based on discussions with various individuals and a review of publications, and it's presumed to be accurate. It's to the best of our knowledge because we have a lot of people that we have to meet with, and we've only kind of started that process right now. In the village, there are a lot of land managers. This is below the political level. This is because we have county parks, we have town parks. So it's the U.S. Army Corps, the New York State DEC, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the trustees of the town of Southampton who manage the Bay Bottom, Cupsock County Park, and town of Southampton Parks, which is the Pikes Beach Park. So all these people have a say-so in our village and the environment in our village and regulating that environment. So we've reached out to all of these people and have had initial conversations with some. And I'm going to give you just an update of what those conversations are. We've set up meetings with other ones so that we're on top of the issues involving sand replenishment in the village. So the first FIMP is the Fire Island to Montauk Point project. It was approved after Hurricane Sandy. It's $1.5 billion. They have just finished all of their studies and they're starting to implement in the last couple of years this project of restoring Fire Island to Montauk Point. There are 3 contracts that are out there. Ours is the 4th contract. Right now, the big one is down in Fire Island. It's a $52 million project that was just awarded to the Great Lakes Dredging, and it's going to be starting this fall. I don't know whether you are aware, but Hurricane Ophelia and another storm in 2023 did a lot of damage, and they're very eroded up to their their stairwells, staircases were hanging. So there's a big pumping project there. When they're done there, they're going to come over here. We're going to do pumping. And that contract 4 from Army Corps went out early August. And it's a beach replenishment. I could show you, but unfortunately our technology isn't up to speed yet with the recent move, but I could have showed you the graphics. But with the stipulation agreement, we have a certain profile to the beach. And that goes back 30 years where they shortened the groins and they built up the sand at the beginning of the village with the idea that with the littoral drift, it will move down the beach. So right now we're in pretty good shape on our beach, and the pumping is going to be around the groin on both sides, both east and west. Also, interestingly, in this plan, there is a pumping project, which is down at Cupsock on the bay side. I don't know how many of you have walked down there, but the seal walks in the wintertime, if you go all the way down past where the trailers pull in the recreational vehicles, and you walk down there and you walk further west, you'll see that after the rocks, there's a real cliffed out spot there. And it's pretty eroded. And a lot of the people who are boaters use that site to go over to the beach and for camping. So part of the pumping project that's out to bid right now is a major replenishment of that beach. And when we get this available, I'll share with Robin and we'll put it on the website, but you can see the profile of what they're filling in there. And I think it's a great thing because they're finally starting to do some pumping on Bayside, which is, I think, good for our village. So anyways, I have that map. I have the template. That's not going to do us any good. I have the Cupsock. Okay. So anyways, the stipulation agreement was the 30-year settlement. And that, if you read the RAF document, says that December, when the first restoration was completed, it was December of 1997, and the legal document clearly states that it's good until 2027 December. So Army Corps has indicated that we're in a transitional period now, and that the sand replacements will be turned over to the Fire Island to Montauk Point FIMP and managed by the New York State DEC. Meetings have been held by the mayor. The mayor talked about this with local officials and will continue to be held to understand when and how this will be handled with the federal government, the Army Corps, and the New York State DEC. So we have requested meetings with the second in command. We've had one meeting with our local guy who does all the environmental stuff. We learned an awful lot. They're being extremely cooperative, and we have out invitations to meet with the New York State DEC, the two guys that are going to be controlling FIM. So just some recommended steps for our village and residents. Under FIM, we'll be responsible for a percentage of the cost of the replenishment. And right now, we have no idea what that's going to be. But I think that I'll just say this for the future, that building the proper reserve fund is imperative for us so that we're ready if something happens with a major storm, that we're ready to do it. I also believe that I think we all do, that building our dunes gives us more protection. And that the village is looking at ways to implement a snow fencing, sand fencing program starting this fall. I would say to people to remind everybody that the dunes are our front line of protection from flooding. And there are wood walkovers, and then there are the public walkovers, the access points. Please try to stay on the wood there, because if you walk on the sand, it breaks down the dune. And we're trying to build the dunes up. We're going in the opposite direction. So, just be respectful of the dunes, the grass, everything that's there, so that, we keep our front line in good shape. Another interesting thing, and that this goes back into my history, after working with the BVPA 11 years ago, I went to work after I left the board there. I went to volunteered for the Cornell Cooperative New York State DEC horseshoe crab counting program at Pikes Beach. And horseshoe crabs are a really important species because not only do they help human beings, everything that goes into your body is tested on their blood, which is crazy. It's the global standard. And horseshoe crabs are only found on the eastern coast of the United States. But it's also a major feeding source for the migrating birds that migrate in the spring migration from South America up to the Arctic. And it's interesting now, in part of FIM, there's a project down in Ditch Plains, which is in Montauk. That's a bird reserve, and they're restoring that property for the birds as a sanctuary. And one of the things that I've noted is, and I've noticed this over the time that I was counting over the last 20 years, as well as the scientists have, that Pikes Beach is eroded, and the animals, the horseshoe crabs, mate in the spring tides at the highest tides. And right now our tides and the spring high tides are right up to the grass line, and that whole beach has eroded down and moved out into the bay. And so I think that there's a reasonable case to be made that we could get people interested in restoring Pikes Beach with sand to restore the habitat for endangered species. And I had lovely pictures if I could show them, but I don't, of the red knots being there, which is an endangered species, but also the piping plovers. Once they fledge, they come over and they feed on the bay beaches. So keeping that habitat healthy not only makes our beach beautiful and protects our bayside homes, it also feeds nature, and that's part of it. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
In reference to what Trustee Mulholland just said, last Sunday on CBS, The Morning Show, they had a fascinating segment about the horseshoe crabs and going into about how their population was destroyed and disseminated by using for bait and also using for the for this blue blood that they have. But it was absolutely fascinating, and if anybody has a chance, they might want to actually watch that. I think we can try to post the map up on, the sand replenishment up on our website. Another thing that Deputy Mayor Tremarchi worked on is he actually has some links that he did some research that we will also be linking some information to our website. If anybody wants to get any more information about pimping some of these projects, they'll be available. If anybody else wants to discuss it, they're more than welcome to reach out to me.
One thing I just want to mention, the snow fencing. I think that we need to come up with a plan for how the snow fencing should be done, so that we make sure that if we're not doing it as a village, if individuals are doing it, that they do it correctly, and that it's, done in a fashion that it will, maintain as much of the sand place as possible.
Yes,
Well, the big reason is whether you're gonna go wide or
Right,
you're gonna go high.
right.
And you hear a lot of different opinions about which way is the best way to do it. But we'll figure it out some way.
right. I think that what's really important is that anybody who has a house on the ocean should be installing sand
Absolutely.
fencing like this fall, in the next month or so. It's really important. It protects the beach. It gives us resiliency. If anybody needs help installing it in terms of technical specifications or possibly who to help them with it, we'll be happy to share that information with them. There's also a chance that the BBPA might be willing to help people with this, so we can reach out to them. I don't know if they have
Maybe
a
we can send a
representative.
survey out and see who's gonna do it, so we can get an idea of.
Erwin, I think we've discussed this, but we'll discuss it further because it's a relatively new idea. I think we should price it as a village project and have it done by the village, so it's done properly and it's done on time. The winter winds, which interesting word, Aeolian winds, named after the Greek god of wind, push the sands up against the fence. It causes a wind turbulence. It builds behind it. Every 4 years, those fences are buried and they create more dune. So it's just wise. And I think we need to, as trustees, get together and see if we can figure out a way to finance this with the homeowners so that we have a regular program. I just feel that this is an imperative for the village. It's our best defense is to have strong dunes. And that's my personal opinion. I'm happy to discuss it with the trustees.
I agree that we should try
I
to
think
have
everybody agrees with
everybody
that.
do it. I think as the two people here that live on the ocean, we've been doing it for years, so we're totally in agreement with doing it.
I mean, I lost 8 risers off of my stairs in 2 years, 8 risers. That's a lot of
I mean, it's
dune.
good if you
As a matter
both,
of fact, it's past the original dune.
I mean, it's good if you both do it, but we need to.
No, we
Of course.
agree.
And if we put a
We need-
program together.
We need a program, I think, for the village wide. And, it'd be great for the people that are on board here and listening to give some feedback to this. If you would be open to a way that we finance this, I think if we spread it out over 4 years, it'll be a minimal expense and a great investment for, we just have to have this as a regular replacement every 4 years where we put snow fencing on our dunes. And, it does 2 things. It not only builds the sands, but it narrows the traffic crossing over to the beach so that you have a path that goes down and, you're protecting as that dune builds the grasses and everything. So there's a bunch of benefits to it. And just one other point on the Bayside, to residents, I've been here for 40 years and I know the Bayside because I live on it. And if you put a pathway straight to the water will follow the pathway straight up to you on a high tide. It's best if you go on a diagonal. It gives you more buffer with your grasses and things so that you're blocking the water coming up. It's just something to consider as you design your backyards.
We should get in, people with knowledge of this, engineers or whatever, will give us the right direction to go in, I'm sure, rather than us trying to guess at it.
Yes, I attended the BBPA annual meeting, and one of the matters that they were working on and have already researched and apparently considered hiring someone is to almost have it as a fundraiser for them, that the, different people can pay and they will have one or several people who know how to install it on behalf of homeowners. So my suggestion would be for the mayor and the board to communicate with the BBA because they've already done research and they're already looked into hiring, and they're an environmental organization, that it might be something that the homeowners can do, make it a charitable donation, and at the same time get their snow fencing done.
To give you an idea of cost, it's around, I would say $600 to do something that's around 60 feet, 70 feet, 80 feet, even 90 feet.
If you extrapolate it out to the village, it's about 125,000. And if you amortize that over 4 years, and we did an assessment to homeowners, it would be about $100.
Great deal.
Yeah, it's an incredible deal. And I can't see any reason why people wouldn't want to do this, but I think let's get some feedback from the homeowners and then
And work on some pricing.
we'll work on
That's
some
still
pricing.
good.
They already have the pricing, they already spoke to people, and instead of having to pay the village an assessment, they can pay a not-for-profit.
By the way, it's instant gratification because the first year you do it, you're gonna see a huge
We've
response.
had it for years and they.
I know, but you have to
We
recognize,
have two very large dooms now.
but you have to recognize some people aren't here, some people aren't focused, some people don't come to the meeting. So we need a plan
To take it over.
to take it over and do it, or it's not going to get done. So that's why I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Two things that I realized I skipped was, we set up a Facebook page, which is basically on the West Hampton Dunes. And what?
3 words.
3 words, yes. Well, it's on the agenda, but West Hampton Dunes is 3 words. We kind of set that up kind of just as a community forum, so if people want to post pictures of sunsets, sunrises, construction, share, animals, but also if they looking for a contractor, they're looking for a plumber, they're looking for any kind of community type forum stuff that would be really just open to the residents only, but we'd like you to join the Facebook page if you're inclined to be on Facebook and have that as a way to get information. The other thing is, I don't think everybody's aware of, but the constabulary actually has a Twitter page, which is at WH Dunes PC. And that also, Brian uses to disseminate information about, this weekend there's going to be really bad tides and rip currents, or if a bridge is closed, or if there's a power outage or anything else. So if you want to know what's going on relatively quick, you might want to also subscribe to that Twitter page just so that gets information out there right away.
Could I just ask you a question about the Facebook page? Who's monitoring the Facebook page and how's that being handled? I mean, who's,
I will, in terms of.
my concern would be people posting things that we may not want posted.
No, they can't, no, in other words, I don't know if you're familiar with there's a page also that I use in West Hampton. I forget what's what's the page that we. West Hampton Beach Community Forum. Before anything gets posted, it gets approved.
Okay.
So anything, like if anybody's gonna
Everything's gotta
post
come through you
anything,
first.
yeah, anything was getting, we don't want anything, it's all about positive. It's not for people.
I just want to make sure that
complaining.
we have a good control over
Yeah,
that.
that's
That's really important.
It's a good question.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. Can I ask them now?
Can I, as soon as I finish, then that's fine. I just didn't wanna lose my thoughts, and then I was gonna let you discuss anything that I said, then we can move on to the other stuff, or that, okay. So, also, Trustee Mulhern mentioned about technology, and yes, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to get a large screen, here, so when we have a presentation, the audience can see, we can also see who's in the audience. I've actually been working with, Sal Mattioli, who is helping me. He actually works for a company that actually has some technology. Unfortunately, some of the technology he was offering us I felt was beyond our budget, but there are some simple solutions. So the move kind of took precedent. I was hoping to have it for the August meeting, but hopefully by the September meeting, we'll be able to have some technology in place here that we can share the information with the people that attend the meeting, and also we will be able to share the information through Zoom. So when the presentation that was given earlier can also be shared as a slideshow. So we're hoping to get that accomplished by the September meeting. The last thing is one of our residents by the name of Lon Dobler is a musician, and he's performing at the West Hampton PAC on October 31st, and it's kind of a Motown review and revival. And Lon was generous enough to donate tickets to the village to be auctioned off to basically support the constabulary and the BBPA. So if anybody would possibly be interested in going to the concert, we'd love you to make a donation for I think the face value of the ticket is $80. So for the face value and above, and that money will be shared between the BBPA and the constabulary in terms of their PBA kind of fund. So we thought we'd do that. He offered it. He originally wanted to make it to the village, but we couldn't actually give it to the employees. So we said we could use it to raise money to share. So again, that's October 31st. It's Labor Day weekend. I'm planning on going,
I've seen them and they're terrific.
I
It's Sam Cooke's daughter.
Yes.
Is the lead singer. They've got a bunch of more.
You mean,
August 31st, I'm sorry, August 31st, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I apologize, August 31st, it's Labor Day weekend.
That's a
I'm sorry,
really good
it's Labor
show.
Day weekend, that's why I was mentioning it today. Yeah, so it should be kind of a fun show, so like I said, if anybody's interested, please contact me and we will, get you the tickets and we'll get the money distributed.
Want them to, out to Robin, to email you, maybe you can tell them what,
They can-
how to contact you.
I gave up, well, just in case somebody doesn't have it, I have a new cell phone number, it's 631-560-5437. 631-560-5437. They can email me, Erwin@whdunes.org. You can call Robin and Robin, will make sure that I get the message. Probably call Robin, but, that's fine. Whether you need me for this or anything else going on in the village, if it's as the previous administration said, if it's a problem that's happening immediately, please reach out to the police and the duty phone. If it's something that you'd like me to take a look at, but it's not critical or it's not life safety, then, feel free to, reach out to me, as far as that goes. Okay, so now that I kind of shared everything that was going on from the mayor's perspective, I'd like to open, in terms of the things that I said, specifically, if anybody's got any questions or comments that are here and then afterwards online.
Okay, going back to point 3. Is the village paying rent for non-children?
No,
No.
not because we didn't want to, but the BBPA said that they didn't want to collect rent. They thought it might affect them from a tax perspective. So basically, we are giving them a security deposit and we are not paying rent. We're just continuing to pay everything we've been paying for the building all these years, which is basically the insurance, the maintenance, the, utilities.
So it'll be a savings from the past. Now we
Right,
won't
so
pay
we're saving money from paying rent. We are paying a couple things now that we weren't paying. We're paying to have the place clean. We weren't paying to, but anyway, so there's definitely a savings, but it's not costing us anything anymore.
Okay, the other question I had was the contractor sign removals, okay? You were basically talking about the big contractor signs up. Right?
Yes,
Okay, so there also is a situation where if someone comes to power wash your house or paint your house, they put these little signs in front of the house with the
Like your candidate sign.
the candidate sign, okay, and they just sit there. And those need to be removed also, or should be removed once the work is done,
yes.
okay, but they're not,
They probably shouldn't even be there.
okay.
But we, so if somebody signs there for a day, the guy's painting or power washing for a couple of days, I think that's fine.
Right.
If you notice something that's been there longer and we haven't noticed it, or John, who's the building inspector, would really handle this, but he would be the one who would reach out to them.
It's just an issue that is there all the time. I mean, those signs are there all the time.
They shouldn't be.
Especially in the spring when people having power washing done. I had my house painted, the guy put the sign in, he was there a couple of days, I took the sign down when he wasn't there, so.
Well, I wasn't in charge in the spring, but
Well,
moving forward, I will be, as I said, I pretty much
that's something that,
walk the village every day and trust me, you can ask Brian, as I walk the village, I'm calling the constabulary, I'm taking pictures of anything that I think is a possible violation and asking them to take care of it, because like I said,
right.
I'm not driving it, I'm actually walking it, so I kind of get a more intimate view.
Sometimes they staple signs onto telephone poles.
That they shouldn't do either. That they should come down. One of the things is we don't have a DPW department. So the problem is I don't have somebody that I can call to go, do it. As what I was said to somebody the other day when I was selling the Jeep, I was outside in the pouring rain, taking the village license plates off the Jeep because I'm here by myself. There was nobody to do this stuff for me. So I'll do whatever I can, but like I said, sometimes we
That's
gotta.
something that I think John should be aware of, that
Yes.
there's a power washing sign in front of someone's house.
Right.
That needs.
And that's a code enforcement issue, so that's something that you can somebody can email John, or they can call the village office if they see that, if it's bothering them. And we'll make sure it's being taken care of.
Okay, the other thing is, there's no, as far as signs, there's nothing regulating political signs in the code. I would see. And I'm just wondering if that's something that should be looked at as far as size of the signs.
The political signs are considered free speech. There's no regulation on political
Okay,
signs.
so there's no, you can't regulate when they put up or size of them.
Well, do you have a kind of?
I don't have an opinion on this. We can look into the code.
I mean, it's generally, 30 plus days before the election, and
Okay.
at least.
But that's not in the code. There's nothing in the code.
There's nothing in the code, and as a matter of fact, I mean, the election.
There was a billboard up in the village.
I know.
That was ridiculous.
I know.
Is that okay?
No,
No.
but again, I mean, the election, but again, that could be free speech. So the election was June 21st. I think by June 23rd, all of our signs were down, and I think right afterwards, I think RV made sure that the other signs were taken down. They weren't taken down right away, but I think that
Can you imagine if there were like 20 billboards in the village?
No,
When anybody asked us, we kept
I
saying
don't
that they
think-
should be the same as contractors.
I don't
signs. That's how we were advising everybody.
I don't think it'll happen again, but
I don't
again,
either.
if somebody puts it on their property, becomes a free speech
Yeah.
issue, and that's a legal question. But as far as these signs, I mean, I think they're, pretty much political signs are that standard, 24 by 16, 24 by 18 sign, and they're kind of what they call lawn signs. I mean, I've
Right.
seen some lawn signs on people's property right now for a charitable race, and there was some lawn signs on people's property the other day for an event that just happened at the West Hampton Tennis Club. I mean, and it's, but they were there for maybe a week.
Right.
There was a case in Bremen that 3 or 4 years litigated for a similar sign. It was basically a billboard. So when you're talking about this, it's not something that in my experience in municipalities that you could easily enforce.
Right, okay. But again, getting back to those contractor signs that put in the ground, that's something that John should be aware of, that it's out there for months.
Right, it should,
Yeah.
right, like I said,
Shouldn't be there after the
there's
election.
one that I realized that's been up for years, and, and we told them, and as far as that goes, but again, I've only been here for weeks, not for years, so I had no authority to even, deal with it, and like I said, it's one of these things that it's not even on the main road, and I only notice it because, like I said, when I say I walk the village, I mean, I walk down Midget, I walk down Cove, and I walk down Dune Lane just to kind of see what's going on, and it's a different perspective when I'm walking at my 3 miles an hour as opposed to when I'm driving at 25 miles an hour.
Okay, so the other thing, the shrubs growing into the street, being that we're talking about that, to me, the real problem, and I'm just making an observation, is that a lot of oceanside houses have built hard structures right out onto the roads. Right, okay, so there are garden walls, there's brickwork, there are garden berms right up to the line. So the Dune Road right away is blocked on the ocean side.
Well, I think, I mean, on the ocean side, we got about 12 to 18 inch, probably you would know, I mean, because
It's very small.
it's very small, and I don't think anybody's, I mean, I haven't noticed anybody impeding on that, but in all fairness.
Is there something
walk
specific
on the
that's an
other
issue?
side,
One
what you say?
specific example that's an issue?
Ocean side, you have to walk in the road, you have to walk in Dune Road, on Dune Road. There's no shoulder. Okay.
Well, we know there's no show, yes.
Okay, but there is a shoulder there. There is room for a shoulder on the ocean side.
Is there one spot in particular that's affecting you? What I'm asking, is it affecting you personally, one spot?
Well, I mean, I walk my dog and I'm walking with traffic on the ocean side. I have to walk in Dune Road or on Dune Road. because there are,
Why are two people?
There's something in the code about it.
there
I
are
know there
large
is.
structures built right up to the line, and that's not only off the property, but it's in the Dune Road right away.
We can
Let's look
take,
into
we could
that.
take a look at
Let's
that.
look into
I'm
It
not
is,
really,
it is.
I'm not aware of any, at this point, I'm not aware of any violation, but we can look into
Well,
it.
Yeah.
We could look into the code.
Yes.
You wanna say
Walk down Dune Road,
99% sure.
just walk down,
It's in the code.
just walk on the ocean side, you
Okay.
can't walk.
Well, let's look
You have to
into it.
walk
We
on
can
the
get
road.
back next.
We could research the code
Yes.
for relevant provision.
Okay, now-
The board.
Originally, when the village was first formed, because the dunes are so close to the houses, they allowed the oceanside people to extend their driveways off their property, so they have a little room there. But it was never meant that they were gonna build hard structures all the way to the road. It was just so that it just, yeah.
What does hard structures mean to you?
Cement,
Cement?
garden wall.
Oh, cement is, it can't be. You can't use cement. You're not supposed to use cement. You're not supposed to use blacktop. You're not supposed to use.
All you have to do is walk along.
You're talking about driveway columns? You're talking about-
Columns.
Yeah. They're just close to the edge of the road, but if you remember when we widened the road, remember how narrow it used to be?
Right, on the
That
right side.
there was an issue with the width of the right of way, right, on the ocean side versus on the bay
I don't
side.
know that it was an issue with the width, it was an issue that the oceanside houses don't have a lot of
Yeah, but like you said, we really, that's something the village definitely have to research. That's not something on the spot that we're gonna.
No, I understand, I'm
We'll
just,
look
just
into
making it all you have to do is walk along the road on the ocean side. And you have to walk in the road. The Dune Road right away is blocked on many ocean houses because they built hard structures, meaning garden walls, brick work, burns, trees, right up to the line.
Some of it looks much nicer than people that don't do anything. So I think we have to look at what the code is and figure out what
Yeah,
makes sense.
we'll take a,
Some of them
we'll take a
pretty
look.
ugly.
I mean, it's in the. We'll take a look.
Supposed to be a shoulder day?
No, there's no show.
There's a Dune Road right away. Okay, that's where the telephone poles are, that's where all the, the phone,
Yes.
Most of the phone
the
poles
fire pumps.
are on the north side of the street.
Every driveway, somebody does, every
Yeah.
driveway on the ocean side approaches into the right of way, a minimum of 5 feet. The edge of pavement is at least 5 feet from the property lines of everybody's property on the ocean side. Every driveway is, the strip drains, all of that, they're aligned with the edge of pavement, not the property lines. So like, when you're laying out a house on the Dune Road, on the south side, there's certain points you can go see them on the monuments people have out there. They're usually 5 to 7 feet from the edge of pavement, so it's a common concept here, otherwise we wouldn't be able to park a car in front of the house, but they have a 25-foot setback, right?
Right.
And a 5-foot porch and a.
Right, I'm talking about structures that are built right to the road.
So the only code you should have is 10 feet for a staircase. from
What
the edge.
do they do with their internet, things and all? How could that be all the way out? How can you do? You have phones, you have equipment there,
In a shot out in the road.
right?
Yeah.
I don't
It's
understand.
This
what
is-
the
this is-
history
this
All you
is
have to do
the-
walk
All
on.
right, we'll take a look, but and see if anybody's violating what they're not allowed to do, but like.
I'm not saying they're not allowed to do it,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that is,
Yeah.
that.
I mean, again, I know that, it would be better to, walk opposite direction of traffic, but since the wide shoulder is on the north side of the road, most people do walk both
Well, you-
ways on the
you really-
north side, because that to me is safer, whether it's, even though I do sometimes have the cars to my back, it's still safer to have that area and that wide margin there. I don't walk on the ocean side of the road for that reason.
So I walk on the ocean side
You
with,
walk with
with,
traffic.
with traffic, because that's the safest thing to do is walking and biking or running with traffic. But, all you have to do is walk along Dune Road and you have to walk in the road. And
Is there anybody else here that had any questions
here.
about
Oh, about specific, I'm sorry, if you were limiting.
specific to what we just went
Yeah.
through first before public comment? This is just in reference to anything I went over that you have a question about.
Yeah, well, it was more about the beach replenishment question. Sure. So I was under the impression that Army Corps owes us one more. Is that
still not happening? It sounded like that's not 100%.
Well, what's happening right now is sometime this fall, after they finish up before January 1st, when flounder season starts, we will have a replenishment that is around the groin on the eastern side and the western side of the groin at the front of the village. There is an original template that we got with the stipulation, and they are filling out to that template. Okay, so it's bigger at the beginning around the groin because of the literal drift, and it comes down. So they are finishing off. Our beach is in pretty good shape. If you'll just, I'm sorry, I can show you afterwards. I can show you the drawing, but basically it's just around that area because the rest of it meets the stipulation.
Okay, so this is still similar to what they did 4 years ago.
It is.
Okay, that's because when you were, I got a little confused because it sounded like there's two different things.
Right
Some
now,
people are still gonna make good on their last obligation to us.
right,
Then there's this other thing where we gotta build up the reserve because we gotta pay part of it.
that's correct.
That could be very long off. I mean, again, that might be in 20 years. That's not happening, as far as we know, none of that's happening immediately, Doug. So it's just something that, and remember, it would be New York State, it would be Suffolk County, it would be the town of Southampton, and then it would be our village. In terms of if there was a percentage they had to pay, we would just be we have to have the money there, but the preponderance would be paid by these other state and government agencies.
My statement was more, Rowan, about the power of time and compounding, that smaller payments into the reserve fund just make good sense, because instead of waiting for a catastrophic event where you have to come up with a lot of money per household, better to save and have the interest. And Howard will talk to this in a second about the reserve fund.
Okay.
And then if I can, just a couple more. So on the Optimum franchise agreement, some houses have good internet and some don't. And I remember the last meeting where the Optimum person was here and she said, well, that internet company is a whole different company than the television company. And so they didn't want to really deal with the internet piece of it, which to me is kind of not a great answer because let's face it, it is the same company, even though they're two different divisions. And I think it has to do with whether or not there's a wire above ground or below ground, how it gets to your house. And if it's below ground, you don't have good internet. And if it's above ground, you do. And I'm wondering when we do this negotiation or this, whoever has experience, maybe we can try and push them to make internet good for everybody.
I think they've been trying that, Doug. I think they tried that previously. I don't know how far they were able to get with this again, because I think it's a matter of cost and it's a matter of structure. I know that we were able to just get very fast internet at the 914, but again, that does go to what you're saying. There are overhead wires here, so we will supposedly got an internet upgrade. But I will make sure that Brian discusses that with the person from Cablevision before the agreement, but I can't guarantee anything will change.
We haven't been able to move them in 2 years. So we'll see. That doesn't mean we want to give up.
And then finally, the snow fencing idea is a good one. We do it every year. It's incredibly inexpensive. Actually, I think for our house, it's $300 or $400 for them to do the entire length of the house. So it's not inexpensive.
And what we did the first year is
It's unbelievable.
completely buried.
It's amazing.
4 years ago.
Yeah, it's 4 years.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep.
So-
Makes a big difference.
You had mentioned something about 20 years. Does that, I guess I didn't understand. Does that mean the next beach for replenishment? This secondary company would be in 20 years?
No.
No.
But Regina, what
No.
she said was that
You just said, oh, it won't be for 20
Don't worry,
years.
yeah,
You're referring to it won't be that they won't probably be coming to us for the money.
for the money, not for the replenishment, just that they have a lot of funding and it's split between
Oh,
the DC and everything else. Okay. Robin, is there anybody who has their hand up from?
No, I don't.
Okay.
see.
Okay, so then,
Let me look at anything. Jim, do you have a comment?
I do, on the internet, what the gentleman said is true. If you have an overhead line, they're able to provide high-speed internet. If you don't, they're not. And I got a call from Optimum selling me high-speed internet. And then when the guy came out to change the modem, he goes, you don't have it because we don't have an underground, you don't have a line from the pole overhead. He said, we're going to come out and put a line in from the pole under the road, under your driveway, under your garden, into your house. And I said, yeah, sure. But 3 days later, there was a guy out there marking the pavement, and a week later, the line was put in. And it's hanging on the side of my house because I have a meeting with them next week. But I was very surprised at how quickly they did it. I was surprised they did it at all. But apparently, there is PVC piping run under the roads for just this purpose. So I think probably we could those of us who don't have overhead lines can probably get internet to the house under the road. I was very surprised they did it, but they did it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else, Robin?
Oh, wait.
Yes, I would like to ask a question, please.
Mary Jane, is this you?
Yes, Mary Jane O'Connell, 927. I just wanted to speak to the issue about walking on the road on the ocean side. When the shoulder on the north side of the road was created, I believe that all of the Bayside homeowners had to cede some property back to the village. I don't know whether that was done by eminent domain or how it was actually orchestrated. But the point of that was so that people would walk in both directions on that side. It would create a wide enough shoulder for people to walk in both directions. It was never intended for people to walk on the ocean side. That's why the line that demarcates that shoulder is, continuously replenished or repainted, and it's wide enough. They did not choose to, they felt that it was unfair to ask oceanfront people to have to cede any of the property back adjacent to the road because of the amount of property that they had to cede at the time of the stipulation agreement, where we previously owned to the mean high tide lines on the ocean front and had to cede everything back to the southern toe of the dune. So it was felt that it was not really appropriate to ask the oceanfront homeowners to cede even further property on the road adjacent to the road. So that really, I think, is the basis of the premise for why the expectation is that people will walk or in whatever they're going to do, perambulate, bicycle, whatever on the, not bicycle, but other than skate, whatever they're going to do on the shoulder on the north side of the road.
Hi, everyone. It's Catherine Wolfson. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi there. I just wanted to speak to it because when we did that, I was a trustee at the time that was created, and it was an easement that we had in place, and we exactly what Mary Jane just said. We spoke to it home, so we opted to do it on the Bayside. The only reason it's not officially a quote walking path is that we were not allowed to do that. We weren't allowed to call it that. It created a whole bunch of issues government wise. If
Catherine, you're out. Catherine?
See you today.
She has the same problem as you.
that, which might help out. But yes, the intent was never to have anybody walking on the ocean side.
Okay.
Thank you.
We got it.
Okay.
I think you have.
No, mine was answered.
Okay. All right. So next, we have what they used to call the treasurer's report, but actually, Trustee Friedman has been working with myself and our new deputy clerk, deputy treasurer, Liz Lindvet, in terms of helping us with all the financial stuff. And specifically, we were finishing up the 23 audit for the village, and we're going to be starting the 24 audit for the village. And eventually, the 25 audit, I guess, will be under the new board's watch. But the one that we're finishing and the one we're going to just start is under the previous administration, and Howard's going to share some information about that.
Right. So just briefly, so we finished up the May 31st, 2023 audit, which is over a year old because it hadn't been finished. They did get a clean opinion for both the general and the government funds, but an adverse opinion for the government activities because there was no actuarial evaluation done to determine pension liabilities, which resulted in an adjustment. And also the capital assets weren't depreciated properly. So the new administration is going to look to see how this might impact the future budget to make sure that we're going to be okay as far as the numbers go. In addition to that, in the year ended May 31st, 2023, there was a bond issued in the amount of $450,000 to pay for the new constabulary building. As of May 31st, 2023, the beach replenishment fund was $681,000, but as of today, it's about $905,000. So I think we add about $90,000 a year to that fund.
Right.
The other thing the accountant stated, there were no proper internal controls were in place. The new administration has already restructured so that we have the proper controls in place. We hired the old accountants last year to do the audit for this year for the period ending May 31st, 2024. And our goal for the next meeting or the following meeting is to look at the May 31st actual numbers compared to the budget that was already put together. And we're aware of some savings, thanks to the mayor, some savings, and he's now not getting medical insurance, and we returned a car and other things. We're going to look at all the numbers and see how we may want to reallocate the numbers in the budget.
Right. The only thing, I'll add to that is, we have a budget that was passed by the previous administration that didn't take into account increases in our insurance premiums and certain other things. And now we had to pay for flood insurance that we didn't have before. So the budget is not going to be 100% what it should have been. But on the other hand, we've implemented a lot of savings, and with the vehicles and putting stuff back, I think we will not be over the budget. Hopefully we'll be under the budget and save some money. But again, we don't know, as we're getting hit with things that we weren't sure. We didn't know that weren't covered in the original budget, but we're working through it, and I'm sure everything will be fine going forward. Next, we have the constabulary's report. Brian, would you like to share what's going on?
So I'm sure everybody's aware there's a hurricane out there. It's not coming close to us, but unfortunately it is going to affect the start for the weekend. So they're saying we could get between 10 to 12 foot waves, and they're going to have those spaces between. So it's really not going to be able to be something people could swim in. So the West Ham Beach, the ambulance, those lifeguards that volunteer, they've asked that we just mention to everybody, please don't go in the water. And if you insist on going in the water, try to go where the lifeguards are, although they're probably going to tell you not to swim as well. Just keep that in mind. The other thing that we always like to remind everybody is you really should prepare for hurricane season. And as we saw, if you were out here in the winter, we had flooding conditions from just some storms pushing extra water into the bay where the road was flooded, the bridges were closed. So you should anticipate on being able to sustain yourself and your family with some provisions, right? Some batteries. Make sure this time of year, if you have a generator, that the propane tanks are full. Just even if they say you're not due, just top everything off. Just be prepared, because you don't know what's going to happen. And this is something that you all have to remember this time of year. And outdoor furniture. If you watch the tropics, like we watch, Erwin, all of us, we watch every morning. You check the traffic and see what's going on out there. We all know now well in advance before these storms are here. If you see something that looks like it's tracking in our direction, just start to plan, because you don't want your furniture going into someone else's house, or your house. We've had a couple of incidents which have shocked in all the years I've been here. There's two this year where people have taken it upon themselves to destroy the dune grass. In both cases, one case was convenience, and in this other case, it was cosmetic, so they could see the ocean better. These are all being addressed with us in court. They're ongoing, so we can't get too much into them. But as Erwin and Gina mentioned, that we really that's the lifeblood of the dunes, right? That grass is what keeps the sand in place, right? That root system. Anything you do this time of year to it is detrimental. So, we also had some issues with dogs. And this community has always been a dog-friendly community, and that's great. But dogs need to be leashed on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the beach. All those other times, you're free to let the dogs roam. I think we're the only municipality that I've been able to find that has such a compromised law where you're still able to run your dogs, and have that free time and enjoy it. But then people who are afraid of dogs have that time to know that it's secure. But one of the other benefits to that is it keeps the dogs out of the plover areas, which we've had a couple of instances this year. We also had problems with dogs being left on decks unattended, where people have left and the dog barks all day. And unfortunately, we had to issue a summons to homework for that, because it just was an ongoing issue. So if you leave the dog home, it's fine, but leave the dog inside, especially with the heat and the sun and everything else. It's not the right thing to do. As the mayor mentioned, our Twitter page, so that Twitter page we've had for a couple of years, and it's just for those little brief, the bridge is closed, maybe use this bridge, and the bridges are open, or this, in this case, we put that the storms are passing by and the waves will be big, things of that nature. So I don't have anything else, but I'll wait till the end and see if there's any questions or if anyone has any now. Please love to hear you.
Yeah, I'll also dovetail what Brian said about, giving a neighbor summons and our budget. We're not looking to supplement the budget with summonses, and like I said, I don't think we've really given out summonses to people for any nuisance type thing, as long as they've been cooperative, and we're not looking to, we're not looking to pick on you for your garbage pails and everything else, but obviously if you've been told about your garbage pails, you don't take care of them, then you might get a summons, but we're really not using that as a way to generate funds for the village. Your residents, we just want everybody to respect everybody else's rights and kind of do it in the same thing with the dog. I mean, if you're home and your dog's barking and your neighbor is upset, you can take your dog in, but if you leave your dog out, that becomes a problem for your neighbor. So you just have to be, houses are very close to each other, and it's all just basically common courtesy. That's what makes everybody happy. Going forward.
Nothing has changed from this time last year to right now. We're doing everything this way we did it before. We're treating residents the same way with the same respect. And if you're not receiving that respect, let me know. And we're giving, in these cases where someone's written, there are numerous warnings. This is not like somebody left the dog out for 5 minutes and they're barking. This is somebody who pulled a little bit of beach grass out. These are these extreme cases. So this is just something that, we have to address when it becomes, to that level. But again, actually, we are on that.
Okay. Next we have resolutions. Regina, do you want to start? We'll go like reverse clock order. You can read the first one if you'd like to, and
So just make sure we do a motion and we second each one.
Right.
For the record.
Resolution approving each of the claim vouchers submitted for audit and approval by the Board of Trustees.
someone make the motion.
Second.
Seconded. Howard, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
John, you want to read the next one?
Resolution waiving reading of and approving the, no, we already said that, didn't we?
No.
Waiving readings, yeah.
Okay.
We didn't do that one. Go ahead.
Resolution waiving the reading of and approving the minutes of the July 19th, 2024 Board of Trustees meeting.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter in the agreement of lease with the barrier BPPA for 914 Dune Road. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Resolution authorizing the following village official to attend New York Conference of Mayors, and that the cost of such attendance be a village charge.
Second. All those in favor?
Does it need to
Motion
say,
passes.
have the name in there, or this is
Go
okay?
around again.
We're capturing the
Okay,
the motions and the seconds,
okay.
noting a unanimous approval.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to procure flood insurance in relation to the property located at 914 Dune Road in accordance with the village's procurement policy.
Second.
Yes, actually, that's a typo. Yes, you're correct.
Let me,
We have flood insurance on
Oh, yeah.
914. It was
so revision it, the resolution authorizing the mayor to procure flood insurance in relation to property located at 856.
656.
656 Dune Road in
Hey,
accordance with the village procurement policy.
thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Second. All those in favor?
No last resolutions.
Mr. One more.
Yeah.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into the building department consulting agreement dated July 8th, 2024 with Joseph Narabecki. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Architect PLLC for professional building department consultant services on as needed based on an hourly rate of $200 per hour.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Pass it.
We have
Motion passes. Motion
Sure,
passes. Now, we're open to public comments. If anybody wants to discuss
I mean,
anything that
we
wasn't
have-
brought up or any new issues, now would be the time.
This,
Yeah, that's, I have this here.
Unable to sign here.
Robin, you want to see if anybody,
Yeah.
anybody raise their hand? Yes, they want to see if anybody in Zoom has any public comments?
I have Richard. There are a number of houses that have a lot of chairs, et cetera, set up on the dunes. Is that being addressed with regard to protecting the dunes?
On the dunes?
Can he kind of give us an idea of where he's referring to, if he wants to, or does he want to reach out to Brian? And I mean, we wouldn't know anything about it unless somebody tells us.
Richard, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, hi. I couldn't tell you the house numbers. I just, as you're walking down the dunes, there are, as you're walking down the beach on the dunes, there are, at least from like Cove Lane, mostly west of there where I'm walking, there's like homes that have 6 chairs, tables, some, kayaks and things that are just sort of permanently on the dune. But my understanding was that that's not really allowed. So while we were discussing things that damage the dunes, I just thought I would mention it. I don't know who it is. That you can just see them if you walk on the beach.
So which area are you referring to specifically? The shared walkway by you?
No, not the shared walkway by me. I would say west of there, probably but somewhere in the mid-high 800s. I don't know.
I'll take a walk out there tomorrow, look at it, because I just want to see what you're seeing before I speak
Yeah.
about it.
Cove Lane and West, he said.
But I think he's talking about people actually putting chairs on the dunes, which I.
Because I've seen them at, in the secondary where you have primary dune, you have secondary dune. I've seen stuff in that area. But we'll take a look for sure.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what the rule is or what the secondary dune is, but I mean, I'm not saying there's a ton of them, but there are houses that just have beach furniture out there permanently. Maybe it's a secondary dune. Is there a point at which you're allowed to do that? I don't know.
Well, there's a lot. The primary dune is our sensitive area. That's where most of the regulations are. I think what the area you referred to might be in that second area, but we'll take a look at it. And if there's a code that prohibits it, then we'll tell people they have to move it.
Just as a general comment, it's not a good idea. I mean, the whole idea with these dunes, primary, secondary, is to keep building the dunes out. These storms are coming pretty fast and we just need that protection. So everybody who's doing it, like find another spot, it's not a good idea.
Chairs in, I saw chairs that were left out all winter long and they were buried. You could only see this much of the chair
On the dunes.
on the dune.
But there are chairs on.
Different
There
types.
shouldn't be anywhere on the dune.
Should.
House.
No.
Well, again, if somebody sees something that they're concerned about, or they're not sure if it should be there, or they feel it's not right, let us know.
Erwin, do you have an opinion on, there are a lot of houses in the village that are just rentals? Okay, there's no resident living there, they are just renting year round. And, do you have an opinion on that?
There's a rental law.
Well, there's a rental law, but I'm just asking, there are houses where there is no resident and they just they're just there for rentals, and I'm just, to me, it's running a business within the village, and I'm just wondering if you have any kind of opinion.
Yeah, I mean, well, the way the rental law is currently written, people can only rent 5 times in the season and for a minimum of 2 weeks. If you know of somebody that's violating that law, you should let us know. Yes, I know there are probably few houses in the village that are used as rentals, but I don't know if they're renting them for the season, they're renting them for the month, or they're not following our laws.
Right.
And that shouldn't be. I don't know if there's a way to tell somebody that they have to sell their house. I mean, I think historically there were obviously the property values have gone up astronomically, and I always regret that I didn't come out here 30 years ago. Wasn't as fortunate as Regina, and when I could have been given lots on the ocean. And I think these houses that you're referring to were houses that were bought a very long time ago. It seems like now with the prices of houses and the cost of houses, that people who are moving into these communities are not generally renting, or they're renting just to possibly supplement a little bit, but they're buying them to use. It's the historical ones that people have a very low cost on their house and their property that they've been able to rent. I think this year, and Brian can answer that, I mean, I've always said it's not a quote rental issue, doesn't make, to me, whether you rent for 1 week or you rent for, 2 months, if you have a bad tenant, it's a quality of life issue. And I think what I've been hearing, at least since I've taken office, is we've not had complaints from neighbors about problem renters recently, and Brian can confirm that, which is a good thing, which means that if people are renting, I guess they're vetting their renters better. As far as people operating as a business, I'm not sure legally what we can do, but we can discuss it again. But it's not a bed and breakfast, and yet people do have property rights, and we have to kind of figure out what we can and can't do. Yeah.
We did a rental law about 20 something, around 20 years ago. And you were around when we did that, but I think it only affects a certain amount of time during the year when the permits are required. I could look again, but I'm trying to think of what we wrote 20 years ago.
I think the law is just, or the rental law is just for in season, right?
May 1st.
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty-
What about extending it to the off season?
Well, that was never an issue, never brought up before, so.
This was all driven by, it was complaint driven, and this is what's good about a small community, right? And we can address those concerns that other bigger, places can't. But it was always the life quality issues, and it's just like the mayor said, it was non-existent. It really, there was not a complaint that was founded this entire season.
And I don't think there were any complaints in off season ever.
And I know what you're referring to, someone who rents their home year round, because Yale's here in the winter, January, snowplow's coming, and, we gotta ask, the car's pulling a little bit more in a rental house when they're the only ones renting. But like the mayor said, I don't know of any way to regulate that more. The village attorney might be able to speak better to that.
We can look into the rental law again. There's no reason not to.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Carl Landek, walking path from Cove Lane past Dune Lane still has a number of areas with driveway materials spilling out, landscaping, overgrowth, etc. Contrary to the mayor's observation, still much improvement can be made.
I'm not sure what he's where is he referring to?
Cove Lane past Dune Lane.
Cove Lane past Dune.
What time is he referring?
What is he
At the
referring
end,
to?
if it is in the moment, are you referring to in the morning or later in the day?
What is it? I'm
Carl?
missing the question.
Unmute.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Board. This is Carl Landek, 903 Dune Road. What I'm referring to is the walking path that was the subject of a lot of discussion so far this evening at the meeting. If you are actually walking on that path, anywhere from where Dune Lane intersects Dune Road through the second intersection with Dune Road moving in an eastbound direction, and then ultimately all the way to Cove Lane. Now, particularly in the 800s, so going westbound, right, from the 820s, on through down to Dune Lane, there are a number of obstructions that right now, if we were out there right now walking the path, you would see what I'm referring to. Right, people with their gravel, right, from the driveway that is not even just pea gravel, that are larger stones that are out obstructing the path. So even people who not only are walking, but people who are bicycling or whatever, wind up having to veer out into Dune Road, into traffic, to get away from, to get around, right, that, whether it's landscaping, right, with growth, or whether it's driveway materials, sand, etc. So we have raised this issue with the village under the prior administration for years. We certainly appreciate the fact that this administration has recognized this as an issue and is seeking, right, to address it. My only point is that it sort of was made to sound as if people like Colucci, with, whatever modifications he's made, have resolved the issues. My point is that the issues have not been close to being resolved that are there. And I would encourage this administration to further pursue, right, the issues of ensuring that that path be clean, unobstructed, therefore provide a degree of security and safety that was originally intended when it was created. Thank you.
As a matter of fact, Carl, I reached out to West Hampton Beach DPW Commissioner Matt Smith this morning, and I asked him about coming back before Labor Day and sweeping the street, because we do have an on-call contract with them. And specifically because that'll pick up some of the sand and the gravel that does wash over between the rain or for the cars pulling out on the north side of the street. So I'm hoping that that'll get done in the next week from the street sweeper. Brian, do you have any comments about?
Carl, this is Brian. I just want you to know that at the beginning of the season, the streets were swept by the street sweeper, but what this board was referring to is houses that have active construction on them. At the end of every single day now, the contractors know they have to blow all the sand and debris back in. So that's what the board was referring to. Those areas where we're having consistent problem with the sand and the rocks and the construction debris, that's been addressed and that's been blown in. You're referring to areas where homeowners are pulling in and out of their driveways. And as the mayor said, that's when the gravel gets pulled into the street. And the street was swept in May, and it's going to get swept again. So that a lot of that will be addressed.
Yep, we appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you all.
You're welcome. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Just before we do that, did you, on the DOS law, did you want to schedule the public hearing I think there was a note from Brian about scheduling
on the building code.
Yeah, did you want to schedule that for the September meeting?
Yeah, I think it's September 12th. Is it next? What's the next meeting?
September 12th.
Yes.
September 12th?
Yeah. And that would be published in the newspaper and.
Yes.
We would.
Yes,
we would
like
notice out.
We would like the schedule. That's just to recap what Ian just said. That's what the Department of State is asking us to kind of implement as the village code to basically match what the state is doing. And it has been discussed at a previous meeting, but we will have another public hearing about it. And hopefully between now and then, if there's any things we'll try to get our tweaks done if there are tweaks available. If we get them done, then we will have the public hearing on September 12th about it.
Right.
Okay, Irwin, can I ask a question on this? Just reading through this Nuremberg consultant agreement.
Yes.
All right, did they contact you or you contacted them? How do you know these?
Oh, sure. Originally, I happen to know this person. He works for the town of Hempstead.
Okay.
And Joe Prokop actually had used him in other villages. So when he recommended him, this is when I was on the zoning board. I said, I know the guy. He's a licensed architect. He knows what he's doing, and he would be a good asset to the zoning board. So we had reached out to him to send us a proposal, and that's where it came from.
Okay. He's got down here, which is reasonable for a principal architect, $200 an hour. But is there any, he's referencing other services here that are going to be a pass-through, which is fine, that he may think he needs, or the village may need on a pass-through basis. But they're junior architects, or in other words, usually,
No, we're not doing design, we're doing review. We're not designing a project where there's different levels of architects. This is just to review stuff that's given to us by other architects or other people to make sure what they're saying is accurate, because we had some problems previously with plans and the measurements were off and the variances that we're asking for were inaccurate and incorrect. And the zoning board spent ridiculous amounts of time working through these applications because we were given applications with mistakes and we were correcting them. So to avoid that going forward, we're going to have a professional review these things. So it's, again, it's not to do a plan, it's actually review the plan.
If anyone needs a reason, there will be a licensed architect that will have to sign off on.
Well, yeah, that's exactly my point.
He's not signing off on stuff, he's
Right,
reviewing stuff.
Yeah, okay. I know it has been discussed.
That's fine, whatever, anything.
So we adjourned?
Yeah.
Well, we have to have a motion.
I'd like to make a
Motion
motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay. Motion,
Meeting is adjourned.
I made the motion. And I
second that motion.
I see that, Mattioli.
Thank you for the attention today.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
I live in Ruxenburg. I'm there about 2 years. Yeah, really.
Nice to see you, Gary.
Gonna have a big.
Sorry, it's.